Let us now join together in prayer. Let us pray. We are not here to judge, but to live as best we can in peace and harmony with our neighbours, always aware of our own shortcomings. We are not here to condemn, but to give such encouragement and assistance as we can to those we meet along the road. We are not here to lecture others on goodness, but to ask how well we match up to the best that we know, the vision in ourselves, and then try harder. We are not here to claim a place with the elect, a place in heaven, but to live on this earth with love in our hearts and kindness in our deeds, just like everyone else. We are not here to speak for God, but to heed the divine voice in ourselves and to be the divine presence in this glorious, complex and suffering world. We are here to love our neighbour as we love ourselves, to be human to the best of our ability. Amen. For our first reading, I've chosen some words by the Reverend Peter Raible, a Unitarian Universalist minister, entitled "We Build on Foundations We Did Not Lay." We are ever bound in community. May it always be so. We build on foundations we did not lay. We warm ourselves by fires we did not light. We sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. We drink from wells we did not dig. We profit from persons we did not know. We are ever bound in community. May it always be so. This is as it should be. Together, we are more than any one person could be. Together, we can build across the generations. Together, we can renew our hope and faith in the life that is yet to unfold. Together, we can heed the call to a ministry of care and justice. We are ever bound in community. May it always be so. The first reading. So let's sing again. The second hymn is number 190. Now our second reading. The second reading will in fact be followed without any further introduction by our musical interlude, a time for reflection and meditation. The second reading is called Stocktaking, and it's an article, or extracts from an article, written by James Andrew Storey, who's a well-known Unitarian writer, and particularly writer of hymns. And I took this from the Inquirer on the 7th of January 1995. Now, I haven't been trawling through the Inquirer all over the earth to try and find it. It is in fact included in a book of the writings of James Andrew Storey. Stocktaking. In the great business of living, we need our times of stocktaking, and at no time is this more appropriate than at the beginning of a new year, whether a calendar year or a year in the life of our church. It is a time for questions, a time for reflection. What use have we made of the year that is gone? What mistakes have we failed to avoid? What opportunities have we failed to grasp? Less depressingly, what good have we done? What joys have we known? What love and fellowship have we shared? We each bring our own answers to these questions, our own thanksgiving or regrets. One thing we all have in common: none of us can turn the clock back. The past is past, gone beyond recall. Gone are all the good times and the bad, the pains and pleasures, the heartaches and the happiness. Only the memories remain. Now we look to the future, made wiser perhaps by all that has gone before. Learning from the past, but not living there. We do well to listen to St. Paul, who advises us to forget the past and to reach forth unto those things which are before. Well, too, to take seriously the humorous words of Mark Twain, who in his wise and witty way tells us we had better be concerned about the future, because that is where we are going to spend the rest of our lives. To live in and for the future, that is the challenge which comes to each one of us. For it is in the future that we shall find our hopes and opportunities, our chances to do better, to climb a little higher. The second reading. Time now for a few moments of prayer. This is a prayer written by Cliff Reed, in fact addressed to London, but it seemed to me entirely appropriate that today, on our building's anniversary, we should use it with reference to the city of Newcastle. So let us join together in prayer. Creator, Comforter, Life of our life, whom we reverence in the stars and in our inmost selves, we pause to feel your presence with us here. We are called to witness in this great city. Help us to sense your divine life in the deep wells of its history and heritage, in the beauty and the squalor, in the bustle and the rare stillness, in the variety of its peoples, creeds and cultures. Help us to draw faith from the city, to be a blessing to its life, to create in its midst communities of your free and loving spirit. In the awareness of our oneness and our common faith, let us join in the communion of silence. Ours is a bond of union too deep for words. Ours is a union of the human spirit, rooted in the divine unity. Spirit of that unity, with us here now, may we know your presence and be blessed. Amen. All sorts of things were happening in 1940. In January, Britain had been at war with Germany for almost 5 months. Food rationing had been introduced on the 8th of January. In June, there was a by-election in Newcastle North. The new MP was Cuthbert Headlam, who held the seat for the Conservative Party until 1951. That same year in the cinema, on February the 10th, Tom and Jerry made their debut. And over the weekend of the 20th and 21st of January 1940 in Newcastle, we opened this, our new monumental church, to which I suppose today we should say happy 80th birthday. Apart from local newspaper reports, the first reference in the literature I can find to our building is in the book by Sidney Middlegroup, better known to millions of us who learnt history from him as Sammy, for some reason I never understood. And Middlegroup's book, Newcastle upon Tyne, Its Growth and Achievement, which was published in 1950. And on page 213, in a chapter devoted to Victorian building in the city, he makes reference to this congregation's move from Hanover Square Chapel to New Bridge Street. And then there's a little asterisk in the footnote referring to the New Bridge Street church saying, now closed. And goes on to say, the present Church of the Divine Unity in Ellison Place, one of the most interesting recent buildings in the city, was built from the plans of Messrs. Cackett, Burns, Dick and McKellar and formally opened on 21st January 1940. The building also gets a mention in a book called The Unitarian Heritage and Architectural Survey, which was published in 1986. And it says this: Church of 1940, built during the long and fruitful ministry of Reverend Herbert Barnes, 1919 to 1951. Architects, Cackett, Burns, Dick and McKellar. Brick, stone detailing, a very large building, yeah, we noticed. Flat roof with clear story to chapel, tower with full height slit windows, monumental stone gateway entrance to vestibule between hall and church. Church interior almost square, large with chancel. Narrow central roof bounded by clerestory and rear gallery. Light oak pews. The bright pastel colours of the decor, impressive beamed ceiling, rectangular Art Deco design of chancel, and period window glazing make this interior unique among Unitarian churches, possibly among all British churches. And in its most recent edition in 2009, Grace McCombie's Pescan Architectural Guides for Newcastle and Gateshead describes it thus. The fine interior has cantilevered aisles, so no arcades, clerestory, raked west gallery, coffered ceilings, the whole in wonderful condition. Excellent, yeah, well, you might query that perhaps, excellent wood furnishings, pews and stalls with patterned ends, inlaid wave pattern on pulpit, altar with patterned reredos. We have also got a page to ourselves in the 20th Century Society's 100 Churches, 100 Years, published in 2018. And perhaps particularly for the benefit of those who haven't been with us before, on the back of your order of service, that's what it looks like. But the most all-encompassing description of the building that I have come across is not in print. On the 31st of May 2015, the Reverend Cliff Reed, you remember we had one of his prayers this morning, came to Newcastle to take a service for us, bringing with him his wife Paulette, who had never been here before. I gave her the usual guided tour and showed her into the church, and she paused, took in the simple lines of the building, the rectangular pattern on the back wall and the pale oak furniture, and said only one word: wow. You will note that there is important mention of our wood furnishings, most particularly in Pescan in 2009. Excellent wood furnishings, pews and stalls with patterned ends, inlaid wave pattern on pulpit, altar with patterned reredos. The pattern is, of course, the same wave pattern in each case. And if you look into the church, particularly if you look down from the gallery, you cannot fail to be impressed by a sea of light oak. From the doors, down the ranks of pews, and into the chancel with the pulpit, reading desk and choir stalls, a gift to the church in memory of Beatrice, Herbert Barnes's wife, who died shortly before the building opened. And I discovered, while musing on what I should say today, that just as a 25th anniversary is silver and a 50th is gold, an 80th anniversary celebration should be marked with oak. Now, I don't for one moment suggest that when Cackett, Burns, Dick and McKellar were designing the building, they thought that oak would be a nice reference for its 80th anniversary. But oak is of enormous significance in folklore and mythology. The relationship between religion and myth depends on what one's definition of myth is. By Robert Graves' definition, a religion's traditional stories are myths, if and only if one does not belong to the religion in question. On the other hand, Robert Siegel, who's the professor of theories of religion at Lancaster University, suggested that all religious stories are myths, but simply because nearly all stories are myths. The oak was revered by many cultures throughout Europe, including the Greeks, who associated the tree with the king of the gods, Zeus. The Vikings, who linked the oak to Thor, the Norse god of thunder and protector of mankind, and the Celts, with their own god of thunder, Taranis, all related to the tree. The word oak derives from the Anglo-Saxon, I have no idea how they pronounce it, ac in modern letters, although as an aside, the Celtic language gives us door, D-A-U-R, which is linked, believe it or not, to place names like Derry. And in Sanskrit, the word is dur, D-U-I-R, which some scholars consider to be linked to the derivation of the word druid. The Sanskrit also gives rise to both the word for oak and the word for door, suggesting perhaps that the oak stands for an opening into greater wisdom. The famous English connection to the oak tree that everyone learns about is Charles II, after the Battle of Worcester in September 1651, who hid in an oak tree near Boscobel House to escape the Roundhead army. Just think that if he'd been caught, we might never have had an Act of Uniformity in 1662, no ejections from the Church of England, and no Unitarians. Traditional celebrations to commemorate Charles's escape often entailed the wearing of oak apples. You're probably all familiar, a type of plant gall. It's possibly known in some parts of the country as a shikshack. Or wearing sprigs of oak leaves. Anyone who failed to wear a sprig of oak risked being pelted with birds' eggs or thrashed with nettles. Even worse, in Sussex, those not wearing oak were liable to be pinched, giving rise to the unofficial name of, wait for it, Pinchbone Day. Many a public house today is called the Royal Oak as a reminder of the event. There used in fact to be one on Claremont Road just opposite the Hancock Museum until the area was taken over by the university in the 1960s. And the mystical connection between religion and the oak tree continues into the Christian era, such that connections can still be found today. Many towns and villages today reveal their connection to the oak tree. Accrington, for example, and Acombe, just off the A69 north of Hexham, which means the place at the oak tree. In Anglo-Saxon times, Thor, the thunder god, was also known as Thunor, and groves of oak trees were dedicated to him in South and East England. Settlements were established on the sites of these groves, one of which remains as the village of Thundersley, not far from Basildon in Essex. All of which goes to show how powerfully the oak tree has embedded itself in our consciousness, and perhaps our subconsciousness, as a religious symbol and a national symbol. For centuries we relied on English oak to make ships for the Royal Navy, and senior naval officers like Nelson were known to walk around with pocketfuls of acorns to scatter around the countryside to ensure a continuing supply of oak trees for the ships of the future. Knowing that the word oak derives from the Anglo-Saxon ac or ake, one might think that the derivation of acorn was obvious, but not necessarily so. There is no clear agreement as to the derivation of acorn. It is thought by most scholars to be associated with the Old English acer, A-E-C-E-R, meaning open land, the association being with the fruit of the unenclosed land, and is most closely associated with the English word acre, a measure of an area of land. And of course, acorns developed their own mythology. Did you know, for example, that carrying an acorn was thought to guard against illness and pain? It was also thought to aid longevity and preserve youthfulness. Better remember to pick one up this autumn. And if you want to protect your home from being struck by lightning, then you should be sure to place acorns on your windowsills. All of these myths and legends and stories associated with the oak tree and its acorns show clearly how they have been interwoven with the lives of ordinary people over the centuries. And it's not surprising when the oak is known for its longevity. They can survive for 1,000 years, although most live for between 150 and 250 years. Even this span clearly exceeds the lifespan of most humans. Today, the average lifespan of a human being is about 80 years, women slightly longer than men. But until about 1900, it was more like only 40. Anything living for 150 or more years must have seemed immortal, and therefore become the subject of legends and myths. Their great utility for man has meant no other tree has played such an important role or been so valued by humans, even as we've seen, to the extent of being an object of worship and veneration. And people associated the oak tree with steadfastness and resolve. We built our ships, our houses, even our beer barrels, out of oak. And we were canny enough to remember to keep planting acorns to replenish the stock, just like the admirals wanting to ensure the materials for new ships. The acorn is a symbol of strength and power. In the autumn, these tiny yet hardy little millets drop from the oak tree to land on the ground. Most will be eaten by passing wildlife, but a few will survive to form a new tree in the spring. Because the acorn only appears on a fully mature oak, it is often considered a symbol of the patience needed to attain goals over long periods of time. It represents perseverance and hard work. And of course, the people planting the acorns would be long gone by the time the acorns had grown into mature trees ready to be harvested. So, does any of the symbolism of the oak and the acorn have any meaning for us today? I think on this oak anniversary of the building, we can use the analogy of the oak tree to help focus on our future direction. Our church is the oak tree and we are the fruit of that tree. Or rather, we, that is the church in the sense of the people, are the oak tree. And the fruit of that tree is the legacy we leave behind, which we hope and pray will grow and become once again a sturdy oak of organised Unitarian nonconformity in this city and this region. The building is merely the outward and visible sign of the beauty that our beliefs can bring to people, all people, if only we continue to nurture and develop it. We may be few in number, but don't forget that very few of the acorns which fall from the oak ever develop into mature trees. There is a Jewish proverb which says you can tell a society is healthy when old people plant trees they will not see grow, whose fruits they will never see harvested. People planted trees for us, and we should bless them for it. And the only cost to us is that we do the same for those to whom we will just be history. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of, and in spite of, the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go, remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery. Amen.